My What the Farage moments today. Well, the first one is Cressida Dick, because reports say the government has offered the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Cressida Dick, a 2-year extension to her term in office. The decision has been made by the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, in consultation with Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and Downing Street. This is the Met Chief who encouraged her officers to take the knee to protesting mobs that wanted to defund the police force. This is the head of the Metropolitan Police that saw so many prominent public figures, be they from the worlds of music, be they from the arts, be they from the military, be they from politics, publicly named and shamed, their lives publicly ruined with some of the most horrendous allegations of sexual abuse and worse, for it to turn out that none of it was actually true. This is the head of the Metropolitan Police that has overseen rising gang crime and knife crime in London, and I think, I'm right in saying, has lost the confidence of many people in London, and I think it would be far better to do something radical and to get somebody else. Talking of Conservative leaders, Winston Churchill was rather a well-known leader of the Conservative Party, but would you believe this? Woke chiefs at a charity set up to honour Sir Winston Churchill have changed the name of the organisation, erased him from their website. The Winston Churchill Memorial Trust has rebranded itself the Churchill Fellowship and removed every picture of the heroic wartime Prime Minister from its website. A racism disclaimer is now repeated across various pages. And this is an organisation that last year managed to raise £1.3 million. The idea is they sponsor people to have scholarships and to go and study, and all of that, of course, is very good. But they do tend to pay the people that run the organisation pretty handsomely. And I think to change the name of an organisation set up to honour this man, and one of the inspirations behind all of this was indeed the late Prince Philip, I think it's absolutely disgraceful. About time, perhaps, some of these people learned that the attempt to paint Churchill as a racist, I mean, the man that actually stood alone against Nazism, and without which, I've no doubt, people on the continent and here would probably have been speaking German and living in intolerable conditions, perhaps for 50 years or more. The man that did more to defeat that, to defeat extremism, that believed in free, open democracy and debate. You know, the idea that that man's reputation is now being willfully destroyed, this is what, we call it cancel culture, but actually it's the virus of Marxism coming back. What Marxism seeks to do is to destroy everything about a country, everything about its culture, everything about its history, to bring down its institutions and replace it with the grand new socialist order. It has been tried in 1 or 2 countries around the world, and every single time it's been a total disaster that has led to repressive regimes, and we've got to stand up and fight this. Did Churchill say some things in contexts that today we would find difficult? Yes. Anybody that lived in previous times would have said things we find difficult today. It's called history. I've no doubt in years to come there'll be generations beyond us who find some of the things that we thought and did to be reprehensible. But this attempt to demonise heroes like Churchill and Nelson, who I pointed out last week, this is all about bringing this country down. Now, I have never had much regard for European politicians. I've always said that Michel Barnier was unfailingly polite, but very haughty, and I had many conversations with him in his office, in the coffee room, debates in the parliamentary chamber, and he was always the high priest of the European Union, of the European project. He kept repeating time and again, even Farage can't say that there's any benefit to Britain leaving the European Union. Well, I'd said to him that it was freedom, liberty, democracy, the ability to make our own law, all of which he thought was valueless. Now, my What the Farage moment, perhaps the best of the day, is that, as you know, and we discussed it last week, Barnier is now throwing his hat in the ring for the French presidency. He started making tough comments about immigration. But yesterday, Michel Barnier said this, get ready. We must regain our legal sovereignty in order to no longer be subject to the judgments of the European Court or the European Court of Human Rights, and will propose a referendum in September on the question of immigration. I mean, can you believe it? Barnier, the man that did his utmost to stop Brexit, the man that stands rigid to attention when the European anthem is playing, now talks about the restoration of French sovereignty from French courts. You really could not make it up. And yes, as we discussed with Lord Hayward earlier, something like 25, getting on maybe for 30 million, £1 billion is going into the National Health Service over the course of the next few years. It's being done, we're told, it's being funded, we're told, by the increases to national insurance and dividend taxes. It's being done to cut a waiting list of 5.5 million, which some have warned, including Sajid Javid, could rise as high as 13 million unless we get a grip and do something. And Boris Johnson has really tied his political career now to the National Health Service. We are the party of the NHS, said Boris Johnson in the House of Commons yesterday, with Keir Starmer looking around as if he's got nowhere to go. Now, that might be quite clever. Oxford Union debating politics, wear the clothes of the other side, and it leaves them nowhere to go. But Boris Johnson's entire career is now staked on the NHS. And as Lord Hayward said earlier, it all depends how you spend the money. All of which I thought made me really think this morning when a story broke that the NHS is recruiting 42 new executive managers on salaries of up to £270,000 a year at an average of £223,000 a year, with more than £9 million being spent employing chief executives of integrated care boards. So you wonder, don't you, of this about 30 billion that'll go to the National Health Service, how much of it will get wasted? How much of it will get very badly spent? And what will happen to those massive waiting lists? And I really worry that all of this is being done into a National Health Service when perhaps what we ought to be doing is having an open, honest debate about whether reforming it might give us a better health delivery for our buck, as it does in France and Germany and many other European countries. But Boris Johnson's government are not contemplating reform. They're happy to keep putting money into a system that is not giving us the best return for our money. And none of that, in any way, is a slight at the huge number of men and women that do their absolute damnedest and work their hardest within the NHS to give us the best outcomes. It's just the system isn't delivering value for money. It's like pouring money into a black hole. This needs reform, not just pouring perhaps some good money after what may be, and what may turn into be, rather bad outcomes.